What's up, my friends? It's C-Threep. Today I'm going to show you how I make my music videos and how a lot of bands do their music videos, where you've got a performance of people playing instruments and it's kind of cutting between, the drummer and the guitar player and someone on the keyboard and whatever. And also you can, throw in some B-roll footage of, if your music video is trying to tell a story, you can certainly throw in the clips of whatever that story is about, and then it cuts back to the band playing. That's kind of a typical music video. Here's an example of what I'm talking about, kind of in its basic form, as I've done this many times with the types of videos that I make. So the idea is that the audio of your song is playing, from start to finish, and the people playing the instruments, whenever it crops to a new person, it happens to be on them playing that specific part. Now, the good news is if you're very naive to this and you've never done this before, the good news is you don't have to sit here and record the drummer playing for 4 seconds, and then record the guitar player playing for 2 seconds, and then the bass player, and then somehow take these 300 clips and get them all to line up perfectly. It's a lot more simple than that. We're going to dive into my video editing software, and I've got some links down below for some video editing software that's free that you can use to do this type of thing. So I'll explain kind of the simple concept of what we're going to be doing, and then I'll show you how we do that. The simple concept is that you just need a video recording of each person performing their part all the way through. So let's say it's a 3-minute song. You've got the camera on the drummer, and for 3 minutes that drummer listens to the song and plays the drums all the way through, recording them with the video. Then you put the camera on the guitar player. The guitar player plays the entire song all the way through. Same with the singer. You record everyone individually, the entire song, and then what you end up doing in your software, your video editing software, is you layer all of these different recordings on top of each other, and then it's pretty easy to kind of pick and choose which parts you want to have once they're all in sync with one another with the song. So I've got about, 11 or 12 different recordings of me performing one of the newer songs that I'm working on. But what we're going to do is we're going to take all of our video tracks and just drag them into our software. So now that I've got all my video tracks in here, I am going to drag my song in here. So now what we have is, the way that these video editing softwares work is typically it's broken up into 2 different segments. There's the video section of all the different video files, and then there's an audio section of all the different audio files you have. And for a music video, it ends up being pretty simple. You pretty much just have your song, and then you have the audio files that happen to be attached to each video file, right? Your camera ends up picking up audio, so you end up with a video and an audio file for a video that you recorded naturally, which is going to be very helpful because we need to reference these audio files so that we can line them up with our song. If you had just a video that was completely silent and you're trying to figure out where in the world it goes relative to the song, it's very hard to try to do that. So you want to make sure that when you're recording the video of people performing their parts, you want like speakers to be playing the song so that your camera can record the song in the background so that you can reference it when you're trying to line everything up in the software here. You don't want that nightmare of trying to figure out, okay, the drummer's playing, what part is this? How do I line this up with the actual song? So that's going to be very crucial here. So you can see some sound waves here showing up that was picked up by my camera, and then you've got the sound waves that are showing up here of my actual song. And the idea is we're just going to be lining these up for all of my different tracks. So let's do that. Let's start. And it doesn't necessarily matter what order you're doing in right now. We're not determining what's going to show up in our music video as far as like, well, I need to first work on the guitar part and then I need to bring the drummer part in because I want the guitar to show first. Like, this has nothing to do with what it's going to look like in the final product. So I'm just kind of picking whatever track I want first. Like, guitar happens to be the first track on here, so I'm just going to line up the guitar with the actual song first, and then we'll layer the other ones on top of it. And then from there, we can crop things up very easily and narrow down just the very specific 2-second clip that we want of this part and the 2-second clip we want of that part, so on and so forth. The one thing we can try to do is we can try to just match up the waveforms, because my camera picked up, the song playing in the background. So sometimes you can just kind of look at the waveforms here and match it up with the waveforms here. Sometimes you can't. It's kind of hard. You have to like listen to one clip soloed and go, okay, yeah, this is where the song starts. And then you listen to the actual song and go, okay, line it up. Anyway, so let's do that. First, I'm going to start by actually increasing the gain, the volume of my track that was recorded in the camera. Usually go up by like 6 decibels or so, and you're going to notice the waveforms got bigger. So that way I can more visually make a connection between the audio. Again, the goal is get these things lined up. So I'm going to mute my song here real quick and just find the beginning of where the guitar comes in. Okay, so that is all of this leading up to that is nothing. So this is actually where the guitar comes in. Okay, now I want to find that part in my song. So now I'm going to, typically what I'll do is I'll mute the audio track from my video and I'll unmute the actual song and find out where that is. Right there. So like right there. And you can visually kind of see those waveforms. The guitar comes in right there. And I'm just going to drag this over and kind of line up. You can see like that's kind of bigger there. That's a little bit bigger there. That lined up. And then what you want to do is just kind of play it back and watch and see if you got it right. That looks pretty lined up. So guitar is done. Okay, moving on. Do a mass increase of the gain on a lot of this just so I can see those waveforms a little bit better. So which part is this? Okay, so this is basically in the same position as before, only it's for the bass guitar. So here's the thing. You look at all these different audio tracks. I don't need these in the final music video. I don't want my song playing and then the audio as well from the camera playing. Like that would make it sound really weird and stupid. You want just the song playing. And so frankly, at this point, I don't really care to have this audio track anymore. There might be a more efficient way to do this, but I will just kind of cover it up. I just don't care. And that actually just deleted it. So it's gone now. I could technically get it back if I wanted to, but now that this clip is in the right spot, I don't care. And so what we're doing is that's video 1. Now we need to do video 2. So they end up stacking on top of each other. They don't lay on top of each other in the same track. You need to stack them on top of each other, one after another, so that they're layered. Video 1, video 2, video 3. And then again, we're going to get to the part where we kind of crop them up a little bit so only one track is shining through and actually showing when someone watches the video. One thing also worth mentioning is a lot of softwares will have the option to lock the track. So as soon as you've lined everything up, it's a good idea to push that lock button so that you don't accidentally grab it and shift it a little bit without realizing it, or things can happen. And then when you want to make any adjustments to it, you just unlock it and then you can very quickly crop it up and get rid of a little section and then lock it back up again. For a lot of video editing programs, whatever track is on top, in this case video 2 this one is currently on top of this one. So this is the one that I'm going to see visually, the bass guitar. I can't even see the electric guitar anymore because it's buried underneath the bass guitar that's on top. I think the one I'm linking below, I've used it before, the track that is video number 1, the one that's on the bottom is the one that plays by default. So just figure out whichever one's playing by default. In this case, whatever one I put on top, that's the one that plays first, which for this stage of it where I'm just trying to line things up, that works just fine for me. So now let's line up the bass guitar. So I'm looking at the waveforms here. So here's the bass guitar recorded part, and here's the actual song. Looks like I can just line these up. Look at these waveforms, just kind of line them up, and that will probably get me basically where I need it to be. Okay, as I'm stacking some of these tracks, what can often happen, especially as you get into 3, 4, 5, 6 videos stacked on top of each other, is I don't have the most powerful computer, so sometimes it won't play back the video very seamlessly. It'll be really choppy because it's trying to actually play all the videos at once, even though only one is being displayed. So at least in Premiere Pro, what I'm using, and I imagine a lot of other softwares have this, I'm going to go to a playback resolution option, and it's currently on full resolution, so it's playing at 1080p playback. I'm going to put it to like a fourth. So you're going to notice that when it's playing back, it's more blurry, but I really don't care. Like, I want it to just be smooth as I'm trying to make these edits and things. So let's see if that's in the right spot. Nope. For some reason, I thought that waveform was lined up with that one, but actually it's this. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Here I am trying to give you advice, and I don't know what the frick I'm doing. Okay, so we got that lined up. That should look a lot better. In fact, you'll notice how the guitar is kind of jutting out underneath the bass. So it's going to play the guitar track first for a moment, but as soon as it gets to video 2, it's going to start playing the bass because it's playing whichever one is on top. So in this case, nothing's on top of it, so it plays that one. That looks like it's in sync. Okay, that looks good. Okay, and we're just gonna drag it over, make sure that the video portion of it is on video 3 now. And again, I don't care that it's covering up and removing the old audio, because these two are now lined up. I don't need those audio tracks anymore. Okay, that's a little laggy. Gotta get it more in sync. Now it's a little ahead, so you're just kind of fine-tuning it and dragging it till it's right in line. That seems pretty good. You know, it can be helpful to keep the, I know I said you can mute audio 1 and just listen back to audio 2 or whatever, but like sometimes I like to keep audio 1 unmuted so I can hear both the camera's audio and my song, so that it can help me not just visually, but sonically, eerily hear if it's in line. All right, so you get the gist of it. I've got 3 tracks here now. So how do we get certain moments to shine through for certain parts? Because right now it's only playing the top track. I've got video 3 that's playing, and it's completely covering up the bass guitar and the electric guitar. So here's what you do. You get the cropping tool, the tool that lets you kind of chop things up. Every program is going to have a tool that does that. So whatever button you push to pull that out, or you can go to your tools and look at those. You get the cropping tool. We're just going to start chopping it up. Let's say, so the piano part here is kind of the lead of this moment. So I kind of want this part to shine through for the first couple of seconds. But then I want people to know, like, hey, the electric guitar just kicked in and it is making some sweet, sweet noise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the piano and I'm going to move it. In fact, we can mute this audio track now. I don't need this audio track to be heard anymore. And as soon as I cut and shift, so most programs will have this where if I cut this piece, to the uninitiated, you may think I'm actually moving my track, but I didn't. The track has still stayed in time. Notice the waveforms haven't changed. Like, they didn't shift anywhere. They're still hanging out right here. So I'm not shifting the track all the way to the right. I'm just cropping it and allowing the track underneath it to shine through. So now the bass is shining through because the bass is now the one on top. If I go back a little bit, boom, we run into the piano, which is now on top. So whichever one on top is the one that's getting the spotlight here. And so a lot of these video editing programs, when you cut it, and there's typically if you just kind of click and drag to the right, it's just shifting where the start, where it begins, but it's not actually shifting the track further down the timeline and suddenly getting it way out of sync with your song. That's not happening. But I don't want the bass guitar shown right here. I want that electric guitar, because that's primarily what people are hearing in this moment. So I've actually I did the same thing for the bass guitar. I cut it and I shifted it so that the top track now is my electric guitar. And we'll add a little bit of bass. So we'll cut whichever track is on top and shift it. And so that at this moment, bam, it's going to switch to the bass. And I kind of want it to be more in time with the song. And a lot of programs, if you click and drag, sorry, that probably is like hurting your ears. But like it lets you hear slowly the part, or you can, there's kind of a slow timeline thing. So we're gonna, anyway, I want the bass to be shown about at that moment where it's like do-do. So we'll click and drag that piano over just a little bit more so it continues to be shown until the bass part comes in more. But there. And so what you can do, especially if you got a slower PC, is, if you got 7 or 8 of these tracks all stacked on top of each other, it does become cumbersome for your PC to handle it sometimes. So if I know that this is the part that's going to be playing here, and there's these tracks hanging out underneath it that aren't being shown, then I might crop them up. I might cut them and then move them to when I finally do have them shown. So here's the piano. It's going to go to the bass. It's still on the bass, even though there's this one underneath it. But I could, cut the bass here. And then I've just got one track at any given point, so they're not stacked on top of each other, and that saves on some CPU power. So yeah, you want to try to free up as much CPU space as you can so that it's just, when you push play, you're going to sit back, relax, and watch how it's unfolding. Go, okay, yeah, I like that. But if you push play and it's like choppy, it's like you can't even get a good idea of whether the adjustment you just made is the way that you want it to be. Then, of course, you want to save, and you can export it to a MP4 file. That's just kind of a common file type that's used. Oh, one thing I did want to mention, a lot of music videos will have, especially like YouTuber music videos, it'll have more than one video track showing at the same time, which obviously the way we've done it, it just shows one at a time, but you can manually relocate where the track is showing up. So, for example, if I want the bass guitar and the keyboard to both be displaying on the screen at the same time, obviously the only way to do that is to make some space. I can't keep this piano track filling the entire screen. I have to move it if I want that to happen. So a lot of these programs, I'd be surprised if they didn't have this option where I can just move the position of one of the tracks, and then, look at that. The bass guitar track is hiding behind it. It's live, it's active. And what I just need to do is, move this over here. I'm not, if I were actually wanting to do this, I'd probably crop it and make it look a little bit better. But yeah, you can relocate it, and then that track shows behind it. So there they both are. Or like a lot of people, what they'll do is, let's say you want 4 of them playing at the same time. You're going to, it's a little more tedious, but you can, usually click and drag and resize it, put it up in a corner. So that's it. You probably have some questions. Go ahead and leave some comments down below. I'll do my best to reply to those. Again, a link is in the description for a couple of different video editing softwares that I've tried that are free and do a pretty good basic job. And you can subscribe to my channel. I do mostly audio editing tutorials, but then I have my own personal music that I come out with, and some videos that are just kind of funny videos related to music. And that's it. Bye.